And tonight, man, I'm so excited. Tonight is going to be so much fun, you guys. We are teaching from the book of Romans, and Paul, our writer, he's writing to the Roman people. His main mission was to communicate a couple things. One, that when you receive the grace of God, by faith through salvation, righteousness is birthed within our lives. And that Jesus not only came to fulfill the law, but he came to set us free. The law were instructions that were given to the Jewish people on how to obey and please God. Essentially, they were rules on how to become righteous. But Jesus died on the cross so that we would no longer need to seek righteousness. By his glorious grace, despite all you and I may have done, he considers his children righteous. This is amazing, and it honestly blows my mind because I can confidently say that our God is a righteous God. Yeah, but if I'm being honest, I have a hard time seeing myself the way that God sees me, the way that God sees me. And maybe as you as well have a hard time seeing yourself past your sin or the things of your past. And sin could be explained as our attempt to meet our needs outside of God, or our attempt to gain satisfaction through things other than him. And sin's bad for us because what happens in our heart when we sin, what we start to do is we start to distance ourselves from God. Sin's enslaving, who knows that? Sin's controlling, right? But Paul tells us there's good news. He says in Romans 6:14, sin is no longer your master, for you no longer live under the requirements of the law. Instead, you live under the freedom of God's grace. What are we allowing to control us? We're not defined by our past, but we're defined by the cross. We don't need to live life like we're in prison anymore because Jesus, he came to give us life and life more abundantly. When I was reading this, I found myself asking a couple questions. One, how can I receive this how can I receive this freedom? And two, how can I experience this freedom that Paul so passionately talks about? Let me save you time and exhaustion from working in an effort to receive this freedom. It's actually quite simple. What Jesus has done for us, we don't need to work to receive freedom, but rather just believe in the one who graciously gives it. Graciously gives it. And you know, I've learned that freedom comes from knowing God, believing in him, and loving myself. The more that I love myself, the more I walk in this righteousness that has been given to me by his grace. The Bible says that truth sets us free. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He is who sets us free. The Bible also says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Freedom is found and it's received when we know him, when we know our Father. But how do we experience this freedom? Freedom's experienced when we're close to him, when we allow ourselves to be a child and embrace him as our Father. I truly believe that the biggest strategy the enemy uses against you and I is to keep us from knowing that we're a child. That we're a child, because when you put your faith in Jesus Christ, you become a child of God. To learn to be a child again is important. It's important with our relationship with God because when we're children, we're dependent on our Father. When we're children, we are submitting to the one who is in control, the one who we only want in control. Can I be honest with you guys tonight? This is something that I'm still learning, how to be a child. At the beginning of this year, God spoke a lot to me about different promises and desires, deep desires in my heart that I truly believed I would receive this year. But if I'm being really honest, this year hasn't turned out the way that I thought it would be. I've wanted to give up. I've wanted to give up on my calling. I've wanted to run away, far away. I've wanted even at times to give up on God because, to be honest, I was at a loss for what to do. I got tired of, quote unquote, playing God because I honestly thought that I could control every next step in order to receive that promise. I got tired of praying and not seeing any change. I got tired of being discontent with where I'm at 25 because I didn't imagine myself being here. I thought it would look different. And I started to question if I believed if God was good or if I even trusted him. And I got terrified to get close to him because, well, I didn't want to be disappointed. But I put my fear aside and I decided to get close. And I had an honest conversation with God. I yelled, I cried a lot. I probably even insulted him, to be honest. But that honest conversation that I had with him in the car after a long day of work led me to the most intimate place I have ever been with God. I realized that in my striving and in my attempt to control, God led me to a new desperation for him. I had no other option than to rely on him and to be dependent like a child. And this is the moment when I can say I've truly experienced what really is this unexplainable freedom. Without relationship, life just becomes us just trying to get by. It's like this. Imagine us holding chains, right? These heavy chains that are on us, that are burdening us, that are holding us down. And when we put our faith in Jesus, these chains become disconnected. They're not for us to carry anymore. Yet too often I see Christians carrying, including myself, carrying chains of shame, of guilt, of discontentment, of fear. But in our hand, we hold the key to freedom, you guys. The key to freedom. His love and his spirit within us unveils and opens our eyes to see that we are given everything that we need to walk in this complete freedom, to unlock within ourselves a new perspective, a new way of living. Being a child of God not only sets us free, but we're given authority then to turn around and to forever bind up and lock the things that once held us captive. And then we get to walk forward and we get to unlock freedom within each other. So I ask you, set yourselves free tonight. Believe in Jesus.